Hi, it's Dorothy Guiney with Scrapbooking Quebec. In this video, I'm going to give you a glimpse of how I scrapbook when I'm doing it just for me. This week, I have no prompts, assignments, or collaboration. This is just me doing me today. I'm going to be creating this double page multi-photo spread, which is what I mostly do. And even though I do create single photo pages, I am a very practical scrapbooker. Simply put, I don't have room in my home for albums filled with one photo layouts. So here's what I'm going to be using. It's mostly material from the Maggie Holmes Market Square collection. And this collection is part of a huge kit I put together at the beginning of the month. And it's the first place I go when selecting material for photos. 9 out of 10 times, I find what I need here. Every month, I post a kit building video in which I explain how and why I do this, and I will put a link to January's video below in case you're interested. Also, everything I use in this video, including tools, will be listed in the description box below. So let's get started. And on my desk, I did prepare in advance a frame style foundation across 2 pages. I used 6 papers for this, and you're going to see in a moment 4 of them I gutted. I literally cut holes in the back of the bottom 2 layers. That's because it's something I often do. However, there's no way I'm going to use 6 papers for a foundation page. That's why I got them. You can see the white paper on top, which is basil marshmallow cardstock, joins in the middle. Now I'm showing you that I rounded the corners on the outer edge of the foundation page with a Creative Memories corner rounder. Now I'm going to show you the rest of the stuff here. First, I'm going to show you 5 photos that I matted in advance, and I used the paper, the wood grain paper that I gutted from behind the foundation page for that. And I'm just going to talk about this wood grain paper. It's from Simple Stories, their Color Vibe line. It's the Woods collection, and I use it all the time. It's a staple in my scrap room. One side has a wood grain motif, and the flip side is either graph paper or lined paper. I find it super useful. I'm showing you that I created 2 little photo flip books there. I'm going to talk about that later on in this video. Most of the paper I'm showing you here is from the Market Square collection, except this graph paper here. That is from Photoplay Paper, one of their older quarantine collections. I use it for journaling. That's a bit more from the from the Market Square collection. I don't use all of that, but I use some of it. Here's some chipboard from the Market Square collection. I don't use that, but this tray of embellishments I do. I have ephemera, stickers, some other stuff, and I'm showing you a cut apart sheet. I often take one of the cut apart sheets from a collection, cut it up, and use it as an inexpensive ephemera pack. So that's exactly what I'll be doing here today. I have a basket of tools. I'll talk, of course, more about the ones I use. And now what you see me doing is cutting up some paper to prepare a layered photo mat that's going to span across the 2 pages. Now, I did have a jumping off point for this page design. It was a layout by Kendall White in the winter 2022 edition of Creative Scrapbooker magazine. I don't have it handy right at this point, but I will bring it in a little bit later on in this video so you will get to see the original page. So those are all the page parts I cut out, and a little bit later on in the video I will put measurements for all of these on the screen when I'm actually adhering them to the page. Right now I'm going to place them on the page with the photos just to give you an idea where I'm heading with this project. So you can see there the biggest chunk starts on the left page, flows over onto the right page, and I'm tucking in these narrow strips along the top and the bottom. That just adds a bit of contrast, visual interest, and for me it just looks a little bit more finished. The other 3 narrow strips, they all measure 1.5 inches by 10 inches. I'm just going to bounce them up and down here on the vertical over on the right. And later on, that's going to be where I put my journaling box, my title, and my main embellishment cluster. So now I'm going to place the photos here, and then I'm going to want to talk about those little photo books here that I created. So basically these 2 landscape photos here, each one of them is 3 photos. When you open up the flip book, there are 2 more photos. That is very easy to create. All I did to create this was cut myself a piece of cardstock. Mine, I cut it at 5 inches wide, the width of the photo, and 7 inches long, which is twice as long as the photo. So the photo is, with Matt, is 5 by 3.5, and that little book there is 5 by 7. I scored it at 3.5 inches, folded it, and then I adhered the photo with Matt on top of the little book, and then I put 2 photos inside each book. I do want to point out that for the measurements on the screen, I'm just doing it for the 5 photos and the flat mats, but I just showed you how to create one of those little books, and you can do it for 1 photo, 2 photos, all the photos, or none of the photos. I'm doing this simply to house extra photos on my layout. My main ones are going to be on top that tell the story. Later on in the video, I will add little tabs to those little photo books, so a viewer will know that there is something to open up, but they will be hidden in those little books. I just have extra photos. I like the photos. They're not necessary to my story, but I do want them in my album, and I don't want to create extra pages. I also want to point out they will be hidden underneath a page protector, so a viewer will have to remove the page protector in order to see them, and I'm okay with that because, like I said, they are kind of secondary photos, but I do like them, and I just want a place to store them, simply put. You can see that I've adhered, the papers on the foundation page. Then I stopped the camera and continued. So all of the foundation layers are down now. I'm showing you that magazine I talked about, as well as the layout that I'm using as a jumping off point. I use the photo mat and the narrow strips of paper that I have on the right and she has on the left as my jumping off point, and kind of the guts of the layout I just went in on my own, but that was my jumping off point, so really, really fun. I'm showing you my title. I cut it out in advance with my Big Shot with dies from Elizabeth Craft Designs. Each one of those letters has a nice stitched edging. Also, I layered up each letter with 2 extra layers of scrap cardstock, so they're kind of like little thickers. And anyway, yeah, those are really fun letters. You'll get a better look at them in the still shots at the end of this video. Now I have another die from Elizabeth Craft Designs. This is a planner page. I use it all the time. I'm using it to cut out that graph paper, which will be my journaling box. So now what I'm going to do is show you the journaling box with the placement of the title and the photos. And you can see I have all of my embellishing around me. What I'm going to do right now is create 3 embellishment clusters across the 2 pages to establish a visual triangle, which is like a guide for the eye to look across the 2 pages. I'm starting it with the biggest piece, which I always do, and then I'm going to build on top of these clusters. And I'm starting it with these black Viewmaster wheels, which are die cuts, and they are a gift from my friend Ronnie. She's known as Ronnie Sue Scrapper on YouTube. She sent me a bunch of die cuts for Christmas. Super, super fun. So now I'm building on top of these embellishment clusters, and I start by adding a piece of ephemera. Over there on the right, it says anything but ordinary, and the blue and the off-white in that ephemera piece is prompting me to find something with similar colors to add to the other embellishment clusters. So that's what you see me doing right now, tucking in a couple pieces. Again, I'm still working with bigger pieces here. What I feel like I'm lacking with the embellishments I have on hand is anything really theme specific here. So I did go into my tools, which is something I do all the time, and I found a die set from Stampin' Up. It's called Sweet Silhouette Dies, and in this die set there is like a tree branch or a tree top. Anyway, I'm at this interesting tree in these photos. These are photos taken around this interesting tree on one of my walks. So that's kind of what I want to mimic here. Anyway, it's in late November. There are no leaves in sight. So I do want it to look kind of like an empty tree, I guess. So I decide to try to cut this tree branch or tree part out in just the wood grain paper, and I want to see what it looks like. So before cutting out a bunch, I'm just going to cut out one of them. That's what you saw me do right there, and I'm going to addition it on the page, and if I like it, I'll cut more of them out. Sometimes you have to try things in order to know whether or not you like it. That's for me anyway, so I definitely do that, and sometimes I waste paper doing it. But in this case, I actually like it. So I stop filming, I cut myself out a few more of these branches, and now I'm going to tuck them in each one of the embellishment clusters. So now I have something that's pretty theme specific. I'm happy with that, and I will continue with the other embellishments that are a little bit more general here. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to add a camera here. That camera that you see up there on the right, that again was a gift from Ronnie Sue Scrapper. It was part of the embellishments, the die cuts that she sent me. I like it over there. I always take photos on these walks, but I did want to layer something up underneath it. And I found a couple pieces of floral ephemera. Now I don't want this page to be super floral because it is in November. There are no flowers alive outside where I live, but I definitely like that pop of yellow under there. So layered up under the camera, it doesn't really look like flowers. It just kind of looks like interesting layers to me. So I go ahead and I start adhering what I have decided upon at this point. It's at this point I really can't see past what's on my desk to add the finishing touches. At this point, I didn't even have my photos or my journaling box adhered, nor the title, of course, or any of the embellishing. So I'm doing this right now, and then I will come in, I'll do the title later on, then the finishing touches. So there I go, continuing with that embellishment cluster in the bottom right, and I will end up popping up that camera on foam adhesive. I would also like to point out that yellow in the bottom right will prompt me to look for some yellow to put in the other embellishment clusters as well. I also want to point out that I purposefully started on the right here. That's because it's just one big photo there, and the placement of that photo, more specifically the top and the bottom of that photo on the right, will be my guide for the placement of the two photos that are directly to the left of it. When I place those photos on the left of it, I'm going to make sure the top photo is at the same level as the top of the photo on the right. The same thing for the bottom photo on the left. I'm going to make sure that the bottom of that photo on the left is going to be at the same level as the bottom of the photo, I should say, on the right. You see me now adhering the embellishment cluster over there on the top left. I'm making sure to adhere it within the layers. I do not want anything overlapping the photo there because that is a photo book and it will be opened up. So if I had something overlapping it, it would basically bend or destroy the embellishment. Now I'm adhering that branch there, and I'm using my adhesive called Sticky Specks by Ecstasy Crafts. That's that yellow paper you see in the top left. Basically, it's a sticky piece of paper. You put the detailed piece on top of it, and it picks up the adhesive. Now I'm going to adhere these little photo books, and I'm using a scoring tape, which is what I use when I adhere anything interactive to a page. It's a really heavy duty tape. I basically put 3 strips of it along the back of that photo book, and now what you see me doing is adhering it to the page. Anytime I adhere anything interactive on a scrapbook layout, I use this scoring tape. It's really heavy duty, so anything that's going to be manipulated, that's what I like to use. So I'm doing the same thing for the photo on the bottom. I don't make you watch all of it, and when I stop the camera, I also adhered the 2 photos on the far left along with the embellishments underneath it. Now I'm coming in with some finishing touches. At this point, I'm looking to put a little bit of yellow somewhere and something else in that top cluster on the left. So I have a little bird in there. I don't know if you can see it. The little bird is yellow, so I'm happy with that. And I also have this label that's part of the cut apart sheet. I cut it in half thinking I would put it on the top. Then I thought I may use it for tabs for those little photo books. I quickly changed my mind there, and then I place it back there on the top. But it's not adhered at this point. I'm looking for something yellow for the bottom left, and I go in the sticker sheet. I play around a bit with this flower sticker, but for whatever reason, it's jumping out at me a little bit too much. I want that yellow to be subtle there. So at this point, I decide, forget it. I'll move on with other stuff and go back to it. I'm going to adhere my title here along the far right and also over on the bottom left. So I continue doing that off camera. And now, once again, I'm coming in with my finishing touches. So off camera, what I did was I cut myself out 2 file tabs, and that's with an old die set from Stampin' Up! Called file tabs. I did it in the blue, and then I also did it in a harder cardstock just to back it and make it a little bit more substantial. And now what you see me doing is adhering it between the photo and the photo mat. So I'm just creating little tabs, little indications to viewers that there is something to open up there. I could write or stamp something on those tabs. In the end, I choose not to. The tabs do show there is something to open up, and I'm good with that. I don't want to attract more attention than that to those areas. I want to keep my embellishing in the embellishing areas. Still looking for a bit of yellow there, especially at the bottom left. There is a bit of yellow in the paper strip right underneath the number 2, and that's actually what I end up going with. All I ended up doing off camera was my journaling, and I did do a little bit of stamping. In the top left, I stamped a word in that little tab. And by the way, I didn't do it directly on the page. I hadn't adhered that. And then what I did was I stamped on it. It wasn't on the page. There are too many layers for stamping there. I would have messed it up. But I stamped on it and then I adhered it in its spot. I also stamped, I did that directly on the page, underneath the word, or right beside the word number 2 there, the little words on my walk. And just before I actually finished the video, I also stamped in that file tab just above the journaling box. But that is it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would be absolutely thrilled if you did. And if you are a subscriber, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will be back soon on YouTube. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.